Hi everyone, it's Dr. G. Today we're going to be looking at performance, expectations, stress, just that whole ball of wax that kind of comes with jobs and duties within IT, and more importantly, how to cope with it. So before we get too deep, be sure to hit the like button as well as subscribe to our channel. That way you can be alerted to any updates and or videos. Also, leave your comments right down below so that we can, if I can talk, so that we can ensure you let us know what you like, what you don't like, and tell us what you want to hear more of. That way we can help you in your IT journey. And then, of course, also down below, you'll see a link for our IT Village, which is an area that you can join for free. And it's essentially where others like you, I'm on there, can collaborate if you have any questions, other advice you may need, establish some relationships, some peers as well. It's a great tool over there that we have, and I highly suggest you join our IT Village where you can get the questions, answers, meet other people perhaps that you won't meet here after watching this video. So, on to our topic of dealing with stress in IT. It's there's a reason why IT individuals get paid as much as they do. For one, it's not for everybody, but once you get in it, it can be a bit daunting over time. So I'm going to kind of break it up like I do with a lot of my discussions about where you're at in your career. Are you a beginner? Are you kind of more an experienced individual, or are you more leadership? So let's dive in. So I really put just kind of threw stuff and just wanted to see what would stick about when I think about everything I've dealt with throughout my career and what I'm still hearing others dealing with wherever they may be in their career. I consider myself kind of in the leadership side, but sometimes I have to go to some of the other areas and chat with more experienced or beginners. And sometimes I feel like a beginner in other, because we can't know everything there is in technology, right? We're always learning, and that's the key to this profession, is to always be learning. If you do that, you will have a long profession. The moment you stop learning, you will be defunct pretty quick. So let's take a look at the beginners, right? So this is you coming right out of college, maybe in your first couple years. What is it that's going to be the stressor for you? Well, immediately it'll be just a general lack of experience in IT, right? You have to know how to fit in with meetings, fit in with your culture that you're going to get hired for, and a lot of terminology will be thrown around that you have no clue, right? You didn't learn it in this ebook, you didn't hear it from your professor, right? So the real world basically is what's coming down on you now once you get in. And that can be a major stressor, right? Because you may be coming as a career transition adult, and you're going to face those same stressors that maybe the person coming right out of college feels. You may be more experienced and kind of understand how culture works and working with other people's, other adults, other personalities as well. But knows that stress will come. So. Every company has their verbiage, and even though IT is kind of a common language worldwide, companies will have their own ways of saying things, doing things, and so you have to ask a lot of questions. And I would just shotgun approach it and just ask a lot of questions to a lot of different people. You'll find most of them will understand you're just a beginner, and so how well they explain something to you or how much time they have for you is a whole other thing. Most of the time, people are pretty willing to help you, but a lot of it just depends on what's going on that specific day. There's a hot matter, hot project that has to happen. So, don't be afraid to try to establish a relationship. So that goes to kind of get a mentor. So once you've kind of done the shotgun approach, talk to everybody that you can, ask different questions, eventually you feel out who you think is best for you, right? Because we know that your company may assign a mentor to you, but for sure, what's more valuable is when you pick out your own mentor, because you just align with that person's thoughts, values, how they explain something typically is usually the best thing. How much time they give you, they're willing to give you, or all the above, right? um, in some professions, and IT maybe no exception to this, is overtime. You know, when you're brand new, they know you're full of energy. They know you may or may not have a family at home or a whole lot of other responsibilities or stressors perhaps, and so they'll throw a lot on you with overtime as being expected. And, you know, in a salaried position, you don't get overtime, right? In many cases, you just do more work for the same pay. And that's a norm, right? That's expected. So expect that as a stressor in your life in IT as you come out of school or as you career transition, that, you know, you'll be doing some overtime, especially with new releases, new deployments of software, hardware, what have you. You know, they always kind of want to try to do those during down times. Backup of databases, same thing, try to do it during off times, in which off time now is really difficult because we run in such a 24/7 society, online, virtual, every time, everywhere. But every company picks and chooses its battles of when they consider what, you know, off time is, essentially when really means when users aren't on the system the most, and it's usually in the wee hours of the morning, right? Those are the stressors and some of the ways to cope with it. And really the best thing I can say is find that peer, find that mentor, and stick with that person for as long as you can. And eventually you'll get comfortable enough with the process, the systems, the people to probably pick more than one mentor, right? Eventually you'll start earning respect. And so give that respect back by helping others as well, right? I can tell you in my case, when I first started, PCs were somewhat of I don't want to say a new thing, but not everybody had one. Some people, just depending on the department you're in, had mainframes, right? Dumb terminals. And at this day and age, you may see some people on Apple, some people on Linux, some people on Windows. It just depends on what everybody's on. So everybody kind of has to help each other with the various environments, because, you know, not everybody knows a specific technology maybe as well as you do, and vice versa. So be as helpful as you can, even as a beginner. I used to get questions my first year a lot about just PCs in general, and you know, this is before the cell phone was really invented, or it was invented, just not in use as much. So, you know, this is kind of the experience you're hearing from me as a beginner. Still applies today in today's world. If you're more experienced, you know, the stressors and ways to cope with it really is to become that mentor for others, right? It's always a feel-good feeling when you can help somebody else, like the beginner who's seeking that mentor, right? Give them time. And of course, find your own mentor, right? Find somebody in the leadership realms who you can kind of mimic, and same concept, right? Even as a beginner, it applies here as you being experienced, in that you will seek out who you're most comfortable with. That person who gives you the most amount of time or explains something really well in a way that you understood it, right? But also here, it's a double-edged sword. Start to begin to lead efforts, lead people. You're asking for more stress naturally, right? Because managing human beings is one of the hardest things there is to do, right? Because everybody has different situations, right? Health concerns, religious concerns, everything that you have to be attuned to, and still perform at a high level with your actual work, right? So begin taking on those leadership roles by volunteering, as opposed to just being voluntold, and it will really help further your relationship with your leadership. By this time as well, you know, one of the stresses you're going to be dealing with is being put on multiple projects, as well as multiple projects as a leader on those multiple projects, right? So at this point, you really need to start asking for authority to be able to delegate tasks, subtasks down or across, however you're organized, so that it doesn't just all fall on you. You ultimately may be accountable for, let's just say, a task, but if you divvy it out to somebody else because you have the authority to do so, well, now that person's responsible for it. They're responsible for completing it, but you're still accountable for it because maybe they report to you, right? So, you know, that's going to be a stressor, and that's a big way to help, is just ask for that authority, and hopefully you get it, right? And decision making starts happening here more and more. where leaders and your peers are trusting you to make decisions, and they're relying on you to do it. So this goes down to, your research. Gather as much data as you can to find all the facts that you can to make decisions in the time that you have. And here in this stage, as an experienced person, the best thing you can do here is to put your best foot forward and back up your decisions with research and data, right? That's going to be the best way to win over your peers, customers, leaders, whoever may question, so that they don't question it because you've answered it for them based on the theories, data, what have you that you've provided. And lastly, the leadership realm. The areas here where you'll see stressors really comes up from you're now a leader, you're definitely a manager, you're not just managing people, you're managing tasks, you're managing a lot of balls in the air, so to speak. And so your stress is really going to come from upward. Other managers, your directors, senior vice presidents, if you're in government, higher GS positions, commanders, that sort of thing. It just depends on what your organizational structure is. But a lot of stress will come down at you with tasks and subtasks to be delegated to you because they certainly have the authority to do it, right? They're your management chain, just like we were talking about with the experienced people. And you'll be expected to complete them on top of your day-to-day grind of the other work that you have to do to manage your teams, right? If you're a manager. So stress comes from above here, and the best way to cope with it is to kind of really learn to set a schedule for yourself and projectize your work so that you leave buckets of time, if possible. I know leaving time anywhere these days is impossible, but you leave buckets of time for those unexpected tasks that may come down. So it's basically, you should expect the unexpected and budget for it, is the best way to deal with stress, right? So that's what we mean by budgeting and dealing with timelines. On a more clinical note for budgets and timelines, you always want to know for the people who you're managing and the tasks that are being delegated down to you in the projects, what are your budgets, what are your timelines, but more importantly, what are your parameters in terms of, can you flex? How adjustable is a budget? How adjustable is a timeline? And be a part of the solution rather than waiting for your authoritative figures above you to tell you when they are. Certainly, most projects these days have deadlines, there's a timeline, but perhaps you can have some kind of influence in that in terms of how you work through it. So you want to be a part of the solution here, and it goes back to what we talked about with the experienced people. That means doing your homework, having data, right? But at this point, because decisions have to happen so fast, you will probably be making decisions with incomplete data and incomplete research. So you can really just support it with what you have, but most importantly with what you know. Because you're a leader, by now you've already been a beginner, you've been experienced, and it's not just about what you're capable of researching, but it's what you know. They trust you in this position, and maybe you got here from somebody by who you know, right? But it really is an experiential process here where you make decisions based on a lot of your past experiences, and the rest you fill in with whatever data you can support. And likely, especially the higher you go up as a leader, the more you're going to be making decisions with less time to do so and a whole lot less facts that you were able to gather. Typically, you'll rely upon your subordinates to give you that data to make decisions, right? So hopefully this was helpful in terms of this big ball of stress that's coming your way in IT, but also the ways to cope with it. So leave us some notes down below in terms of how you cope with stress, what recommendations you might have. Go join the IT Village and ask others over there about some help, something you may need help with. I'm there over there as well. And hopefully this has helped you along your journey. So we'll see you on the next video.
As a reminder, click the like button, leave us your comments, let us know what you'd like to hear more of. Also, click the subscribe button and the bell button so that you're immediately alerted anytime a new video is published. Be sure to join our IT Village, which is the link to communicate with others within our YouTube channel over on our platform so that you can get answers to your questions. And lastly, in the upper right corner of our YouTube channel, click the free download of How Much Can I Make in IT?